everybody, welcome to the latest... Oh, I fucked that up real good.
Now that's how the show started.
I'm really tempted to go with that.
Sonic Talk. We f things up pretty good.
Yeah, okay, we're going with that. So, okay, now then, been a while. We've been busy with different things. I have been busy being cool and awesome and doing things that no one will ever know about because that's how cool and awesome I am. And Jason's been doing stuff, and GX, he has been working on a thing that implies that you should never stop talking, which I believe he'll probably talk about later because he never shuts up. And we have a new guest with us here today. Well, okay, not new. I'm pretty sure we've had him on here before.
You have.
Yes, yes, we have. Yes, I was testing you, GX. We have Dr. Reefer here with us today, the evil Dr. Reef.
Yes, evil Dr. Reef.
Yes, and he apparently, like, I don't know, eats kittens and shits on puppies.
I don't eat
No,
them.
he
I
has
just cook
wooden
them
eels.
and serve them to people in one of those wagons in New York City, like the hot dog stands.
Yes, he is quite evil. And he will be joining us today as we begin our discussion on the Sonic Adventure series. We are trying out a somewhat different format. We probably will not be sticking with it, but given that it is Dreamcast month over at SegaBix, I thought it was appropriate that we discuss Dreamcast Sonic games.
I got confused whenever you said you had a format.
Shut up. We don't like you, GX. Alright. Now then, so we won't be boring you with discussion of what games we've been playing. Needless to say, we've been playing many of them.
I've been to the GameStop Expo yesterday. I got a ton I can talk about.
Okay. Before we move on, before we start the show and start talking about Sonic stuff, we're going to listen to Jason talk about the GameStop Expo. And,
yes, Jason, tell us how Nintendo announced a GameStop exclusive 3DS XL that is not the new 3DS XL.
Yeah, here besides the Super Smash Brothers 3DS XL they're showing, now they're having one with an NES cover to it. And here I'm trying to hold off buying a new 3DS. My 3DS XL has the crack on the right corner, which I've super glued, but I don't know how long that's going to hold out. And I'm trying to wait for that new 3DS XL that's such a confusing name. New 3DS XL. That they're releasing next year with the tiny right analog nub and
I cannot wait for that.
RAM.
It's on par with the Xbox One.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, right. But anyway, the GameStop Expo is like a small affair, but with all the big publishers, which is kind of crazy. And it's in the middle of the week. It was on a Wednesday. But basically, it's mainly for GameStop to hold their investors meetings, to talk to the main game developers beforehand, and then they have an expo just for one day for the fans. I just went for the general admission of $40 to check out the different booths, but there is like a VIP pass for like $100 or $150 where you get in like 3 hours early. Ooh. And you have your own VIP lounge where you can chat with game developers and stuff, and then you can just freely go from the lounge to there's an escalator that goes straight into the middle of the convention floor.
Gotta try that sometime.
It was pretty small and low key. Nintendo was there with Smash Brothers on 3DS and Wii U and Captain Toad, and I finally got to try out the Legend of Zelda Hyrule Warriors, and that was pretty fun. And the lines, of course, were really, really short. There wasn't a big crowd of people because it's in the middle of the week, and the only people who know about it are people who shop at GameStop, and they happen to mention it to them, basically.
Now, there's one thing I'd really like you to discuss. You said that they had a new Sonic Boom 3DS demo that answered a lot of my concerns.
Well, yeah, it's a new demo that I think is one of the early demos in the game where you can primarily just play as Sonic, throughout the whole level. It's
Yes.
a little more linear than what you were playing at E3. It still has that maze-like to it, but you basically are going from point A to point B, and then you can slingshot into a new area. But also, there's little areas near the slingshot where there's some secret treasure you can find. There's areas where you can switch to the characters and find secret treasure through there. So there's exploratory areas, but you could also just go straight through without getting lost. And you can only play as Sonic if you want to. I think what it is it's like Sonic Colors, where it's before you collect the other characters, and you can go back to that level with the other characters and find extra items.
You said that they had they expedited how quickly you could switch between characters.
Yes, the interview I was talking to the lead designer back at E3, and I mentioned it might be a good idea to put the switching the characters on the D-pad instead of having to switch between screens and going to the touch screen. And you can still switch screens and do that, but they also assigned everybody to the D-pad now, just like the Wii U version.
Excellent.
So
they read my preview.
Yeah, plus I played a little bit of the, Rise of Lyric. There was some slight changes, but only to the Sonic and Amy level. You can now play fully through the underwater toxic waste level.
Ooh.
And actually go outside, and there's a cutscene that happens outside. I recorded a portion of that and put it on Sonic Stadium. You can see it there.
Cool. I gotta watch that. I actually have not been paying attention
And
to
I
that.
actually kind of had some fun with that level this time. I mean, this time when you're not doing battles, there's not actually that much fighting going on as much as it is exploring and doing some platforming. There's actually a ton of secret rooms in that area for finding hidden items and treasures, and there were some actually really tricky parts that were kind of cool. Like there's, with like Sonic, you can find a secret grating that you could bash in, and then there's a secret room where you can, basically if you've seen the video demos, there's the bright blue buttons which you spring off of, and then there's these big green buttons which you pounce on to open something up. And so
Now,
there's one area where
are you the person who's been trying to talk?
Yeah, for like a couple minutes.
Okay.
I was going to say, okay, so it sounds like with exploration and with exploring, they are trying to reward you. Like you're saying that they have sort of a monetary system. Like, do you have any idea, or have they given you any idea what that's playing into yet?
They haven't really discussed that. We know that's part of what the Villagers Hub about, and like with Cliff, is that you can exchange these items for upgrades to your characters, and the monetary system. So we don't exactly know what that all is. I wish they'd be more clear about this with only 2 months away. I think they should discuss it. They should go into more detail than I think they've been doing. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of little extra areas. There's some what's called crowns. These are the things that are really hard to find. Like on one point, I had to stomp. I found a hidden room. Then I had to stomp on this thing in the middle of the room to open these springs. And then I had to hit the springs and then hit the little stomp pad to open up the crown. So there's a lot of little hidden treasure all throughout that level, and a lot of like nice little exploratory areas.
How do the controls feel at this point in development?
The problem is still with combat. Combat still feels like you're button mashing, or you could just hit your second, heavy attack. But it doesn't feel like they could do any kind of combos, in between.
But how about like character movement, platforming?
Character movements is
character
fine,
movement's fine.
especially with Amy and Sonic. With Amy, she can triple jump. She jumps onto. She's a gymnast basically. She can jump onto these pink ledges, these pink pipes, and there's sometimes the pipes will fall off and you have to jump across, or sometimes you have a big gap where you have to do a triple jump and like a spin thing. And with Sonic, he does he has these blue orbs you find where he could do these homing attacks onto, and then there's areas where there's a ramp and he has to do a spin dash to go up the ramp.
But, I mean, thus far they're feeling like the actual movement system itself is feeling pretty tight. It's not like slippery style Sonic.
The movement system is fine from
the
when I've played.
Sonic Stadium message board gives this game way too much shit. I think
Yeah.
It's an alright. I mean, it's not going to be a spectacular game, but I still think it's going to be an alright, pretty fun game. The kids I was watching play it were really enjoying the game, actually.
And so now you and
There's
I
quite a
are on
few
the same
kids there,
page. And in addition to that, Barkman from Sonic Retro pretty much had the same experience at PAX.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm kind of actually starting to agree with what GX was saying last time we had the show, which is basically it doesn't have to be the best game as long as it's enough of a quality game that kids and fans would enjoy. Without it doesn't have to be like AAA or anything.
Yeah, now...
Yeah, and I mean, I've been kind of following it here and there. I don't, obviously, as much as you guys do, but, I mean, from what I've heard, it sounds like it's at least decent. And
It's decent from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Now,
and that's good. I mean, a good,
And-
decent game is,
And-
perfectly satisfactory.
Interesting point of fact. What the show that was referenced was the original episode 28 that we recorded back in June, that got canned because of poor audio. But essentially, GX had this really long, drawn-out argument with Ben.
Well, I forgot it was canned because
And Ben
it's
actually
so long
played.
since we've had an episode.
Ben actually played Sonic Boom as well, and he hated it. So you can read that preview on Segabix along with mine, and you can also read Jason's original E3 thoughts.
And I
on
was talking
Sonic
to
Stadium.
Kelly Parker at the Nintendo booth, and like I said, both from what I observed and what she's been watching, the kids really have been enjoying the game quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have played way worse children's licensed games that were buggy, that were shallow. I mean, this game, from what I've played, is at least competent.
And another thing is people are too close to comparing this to traditional Sonic when this is a brand new Sonic franchise. It's like comparing the movie Batman to Brave and the Bold Batman or something. It's something that's supposed to be a little different from each other, It's a new spin-off on the Sonic franchise, so there's going to be a lot of differences between
like
this
Sonic
this
Adventure.
Sonic and traditional Sonic.
Well, more or less, I mean, this is supposed to be filler. I mean, this is kind of like...
It also,
from
it's also
Sega
that.
of Japan's
filler.
perspective, this is the filler game that they have to get the one out the year, and it's going to go with the other media push that they want to go to. I mean, effectively, more or less, this is a licensed game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just that the license holder is...
No
GameStop
disrespect
Expo.
to the developers, but yeah, it's kind of like
Right.
Yeah.
well, I'd say like a high voltage game. High voltage, they're not a AAA developer, but they make
Yeah,
okay
they're maybe a
games.
B level.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I don't know. Conduit 2 was pretty damn disappointing, all things considered.
the Conduit 1 and 2, they're
I don't know.
all right.
I've
And I
heard
like-
things
I
about
like-
the story of that game.
I like Captain America Wii, okay, but
Captain America
like I
was
say,
okay.
They make okay stuff, and no disrespect to Big Red Button or anything, but they're a brand new studio, so I'm not expecting something that's going to be AAA right out the gate from that.
Now, as I understand it, you also play Shadow of Mordor, which is a game I've not been following until you
Yes.
mentioned it.
Well, I didn't get to much play this. I got to watch one guy play it for 10 minutes who wouldn't get off of it. But oh my god, I was just drooling over that game after watching it. It's basically a combination of like the combat of Batman Arkham Asylum, the stealth, and what do they call that, parkouring of like Assassin's Creed, combined with like Lord of the Rings, and you're basically hunting different orcs and different villages, and it's interesting because if you get killed by him, that orc, or if that orc kills you, he actually ranks up and becomes like a captain or something else.
Yeah, I heard that there was this very
The AI
intricate...
is really cool because if you kill off a big baddie, all of a sudden all the other orcs that have been attacking you will run from you in fear because they realize what a badass you are.
And in addition to that, there's also a system where if you, say, kick an orc into a fire and he gets all burnt up, but you don't kill him, he will actually swear vengeance upon you and try to get his revenge on you. He'll be like become a nemesis of yours.
I didn't experience that part, but that sounds pretty
Yeah, well, that's why I heard about in this. I forget if it was IGN. It was some major game
I had to laugh
Puck
at
was
Sony's goof, though,
journalism.
because EA had the kind of table that they normally bring to, like, comic conventions and PAX, and so did Xbox. PlayStation had, like, a few flags, and then they had fold-out tables with tablecloths and just some HD TVs on placed on top. So they went really low-key on that one.
Is there anything else you want to talk about before we move on to what was
let's see.
supposed to be the only
Battlefield
topic of discussion?
Hardline sucks. I didn't really care for that game.
Really?
I played
Battlefield
a little bit
game
of,
sucks, huh?
The Battlefield game. Oh, no, sorry, I kept saying Battlefield. I played the Halo 2 multiplayer for the Master Chief Collection.
Lucky asshole.
I got my butt kicked because I'm not used to the old Halo controls. I'm used to the
I
Call
cannot
of Duty
wait to get back to
controls
Halo 2.
replacing everything because I forgot that Halo aim was basically always from the hip, and I didn't really have a run button, so I was trying to figure out, what am I doing? So I got my butt kicked to that. But yeah, 60 frames a second, it looks beautiful. What else did I play? I played Fantasia, the Xbox One Kinect game, where you're playing like a conductor. You're doing the motions of a conductor through both classical and modern and contemporary music.
Back in my day, we had one game, Dance Dance Revolution, and we liked it.
Yeah, well, back in my day, Fantasia was a platformer.
Yeah,
So
Back in my day, Fantasia was a movie.
I conducted Night
Wow,
on
you're
Bald Mountain,
old.
which was pretty awesome, but it was a harder difficulty one than I realized, so I only 2 started. But yeah, I enjoyed that one. Too bad it's gonna suck in sales because they're selling Kinectless Xboxes now.
Well,
Yeah.
most Xboxes were still sold with the Kinect so far, I think. I don't know. In any case, so yeah, it sounds like you had a fun time.
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad
found
to
some games that I didn't. They were very low key, under my radar. That I'm excited about now.
Yeah, do we know when Shadow of Mordor is coming?
Yeah, very soon, September 30th.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah.
I only just really heard about the game a week ago.
No, I saw footage of this game about 5 months ago. I think back in March they showed.
Yeah, but I wasn't. I don't always follow this news. Okay,
yeah, they showed a let's play the developer was doing, and it looked pretty good at that time. Now I'm drooling over it. The only problem is the game has its frame rate uncapped, so sometimes it's 60 frames a second, sometimes it's 30.
In any case, I just wrapped up this level of Sonic Adventure 2, so I'm ready to get to it. So, now that we've had our little discussion about what games Jason's been playing, let's see, how should I open this? Well, I want to start out by talking about what went through our minds when we first played the original Sonic Adventure. Whenever we first played it, for me, I first played it in a Target demo kiosk, and I guess what really kind of blew me away about the game was just the color and the kind of the clarity of the graphics. It's not even really something that I consciously thought about at the time, but looking back on it now, it's just I guess that's really all that really impressed me. What was the clarity of the graphics and just the speed that was on display, and all the color and the sun shining down on you and all that stuff. The lens flare. I'd never seen any of that stuff in a game before. It was pretty neat. Now that's all I really have to say about it. So who wants to go next?
Well, my experience was kind of distant, we'll say. I had only played the GameCube versions of those games. And actually, I still have only played the GameCube version. The Dreamcast was never a thing in my house or my life until the past few years. It just kind of became a situation of, I was big into Pokemon. I was big into Animal Crossing and everything else Nintendo was doing.
So you were a Nintendo fanboy.
I've always been a Nintendo fan. You
disgust me.
Yeah.
But it just kind of came to the situation where, hey, in Nintendo Power they were announcing, hey, Sonic's coming to a Nintendo system. And in a lot of ways that just kind of blew my mind because I don't want to say I hadn't been following Sonic, but I really hadn't been following Sonic. There really wasn't as much to follow leading up to that unless you actually were aware of the Dreamcast and what it was doing, and considering how well it actually did, which it was a little bit hard to do. It just didn't have any cultural zeitgeist.
So let me get this straight. You run a podcast called The Spin Dash. You go by the name GX Echidna, but your first Sonic experience was on the GameCube.
No, my
Blasphemy.
first Sonic experience was on the Genesis.
Oh, okay. So you had a Genesis, but I guess you just lost interest in Sonic after that?
Well, technically my first 3D Sonic experience was also on the Genesis, but
Sonic 3D Blast was not in 3D, so shut up.
It was 3D enough.
It's a 2.5D isometric view.
Whatever. But more or less, it was the big deal for me because I was still a Sonic fan. I still liked Sonic. It's just that Sonic was doing this thing over with the Dreamcast, and the Dreamcast didn't have Animal Crossing. The Dreamcast didn't have Luigi's Mansion or Mario or whatever. So that was my first experiences whenever Sonic Adventure 2 came. And it was, considering that at the time I was, I'm going to say, late middle school to early high school, it did kind of blow my mind a little bit. I mean, the game still did not necessarily look up to par with the other GameCube titles, but it still looked pretty good for what it was, considering how long I was separated from the franchise.
Well,
but,
yeah.
And then after that, Sonic, the DX Sonic Adventure came out, and the less said about how that looks, the better. But I enjoyed that enough, but not as much as Sonic Adventure 2.
All right, so why did you buy a Dreamcast?
Why didn't I buy
why did you buy a Dreamcast?
Why did I buy a Dreamcast?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I wanted to play Jet Grind Radio and a few other games, and I was able to find a very good bundle that someone was selling online with a whole bunch of games that I actually wanted to play.
Huh.
Now, wasn't the Dreamcast pretty much dead at this time?
At the GameCube release?
Well, I mean, at the GameCube release of Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah, the Dreamcast had its last game in January of 2002 in America, and the GameCube version
Sonic
came out in February.
Yeah, that it was like within a year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Between the two versions?
They did the port really quickly.
But yeah, it's just... It was definitely a very different type of Sonic. I think at the time, I could more equate it to maybe a little bit of what they were doing on the comic side, only from a tone perspective. But, I mean, I was in high school. Any story like that would really grab me. I would consider anything that's half serious really, really good.
Pretty much my thoughts exactly.
I got upset in early college because my copy of Shadow the Hedgehog did not have the little beanie cap with it.
Really?
Really.
Okay. Huh.
I don't know. It was what it was at the time. And I was who I was at the time.
You're never anyone.
So, Grief. What was your first thought when you played Sonic Adventure?
I without going too much into the whole backstory of it all, I was like a solid Nintendo household until I got a PS2. So I didn't have a Dreamcast or a Sega Saturn or the Genesis at the time. I actually have all three of those now, weirdly enough. But yeah, so I played them on the GameCube, but I did actually get to witness them because my neighbor was solidly a Sega household. So I would kind of go over there and play Sonic. He'd come over and play Mario World and stuff. And so when they finally got like the Dreamcast, it was real exciting because it was like, oh wow, look at this! This is so much better than the N64. It's so much better than the PS1. And it was like, oh, this is a really cool Sonic game. I see what they're going for. It's kind of like the answer to the Mario 64 thing, except a lot more flashy and has like dialogue and cutscenes and that sort of thing. And it was kind of interesting just because up until that point, you really never think of the mascot franchises as having those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, Mario still doesn't have dialogue to speak of, but
Like, you could honestly consider that game kind of the prototype to what Sony began to do with their mascot-style franchises.
yeah.
Yeah, I
mean,
guess I
and-
can see you calling that a prototype. Sony
Yeah,
did a
I
lot
mean-
better.
I would say it did lay a lot of groundwork for those, like, that genre of game in general. And I mean,
The story-based platformer.
The
Yeah,
story-based
and
mascot
it's-
platformer.
and it was really neat to just kind of see things unfold as they would play through the Dreamcast games, because I would kind of watch them and, just kind of spectate. And there were just some weird things in it. And then there's, like, the Chows and the VMUs, and it's like, this is so weird compared to I have a Rubble Pack in my N64. And then finally, you get the GameCube. You lose some of the, VMU stuff in that transition. But
Yeah, you got the Game Boy.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed. I got Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. That was a really fun experience for me. Sonic Adventure 1, I
Yeah.
would say it doesn't hold up as well, but I mean, you go back to those games and they're still pretty fun. I enjoy them still for a myriad of reasons. Maybe
Yeah.
some of them aren't quite logical, but so there you go.
I'm playing through Crazy Gadget right now, so I think it holds up pretty well for me still. Now, Jason, you're probably the only person aside from me who first experienced Sonic Adventure 2 on the Dreamcast in this podcast, but unlike me, you experienced it before it even came out in America.
Well, not Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure, I was so hardcore for Sega and Dreamcast and stuff that I had it actually imported
Yeah, that's what I
Originally.
said.
on store
Back before
credit
they
for
invented the
P&L,
internet.
yeah. In fact,
Yeah,
I think
Jason's
at the
old.
time I only had Virtua Fighter 3 and a demo of Sonic Adventure, and then like a few weeks later, I was able to get the full game.
So what
But,
was...
as far as
yeah.
the demo goes, it was pretty much the same demo that they were doing elsewhere. What the hell's the name of that level right now? It's in
Emerald
it's in my
Coast.
thing. Yeah, Emerald Coast.
Oh yeah.
We have like a whole website
I know.
based on Emerald Coast. How can you forget that?
Oh, I forgot that. Oh, I never got that. It just sort of dawned on me now. Wow.
Oh my god,
Yeah, that's
seriously?
just wrong.
I don't think about Sonic Adventure very often, okay? We talk about it as a whole, but I never think about it in its constituent parts.
That's true. But anyway,
Emerald Coast is one of those levels I'm never going to forget.
yeah, as
Go
far
on,
as
I,
the
Jason.
I
full
remember
game
the
goes,
level very clearly. I just don't remember the name of it,
I still loved it for the most part. I mean, there are still some like misses, of course. Like Big the Cow was just horrible to get through.
Yeah, but what were your first thoughts when you played Sonic Adventure, the demo, on your imported
Oh, I couldn't wait
Japanese
to
Dreamcast?
try out more. I mean,
Because there wasn't really a lot else out there like Sonic Adventure back in 1999.
No, I mean, I absolutely, loved it because how could I put this? It was just like, kind of Mario 64-ish, but still had its high speed and, the homing attack kept everything flowing at a really good pace. And I just kept playing that one level like over and over for quite a few times.
That reminds me of back when they used to have like video game kiosks in like Kmart and Sears and what have you.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
always, there's just always that same level. You're running from the whale. And I used to get a kick out of that because I used to love to sit there and play those games and stuff. But
Yeah, that was my...
man, that brings back some memories.
Yeah, that was like... I pretty much played Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Mario 64. Most of these games I only ever actually experienced on the demo kiosks when they were relevant.
Kids these days are missing out. Let me tell
Yeah,
you.
with their goddamn download services and shit.
I had a launch PlayStation, and I wasn't able to afford any games for it, but they had a demo disc with a ton of different game samples.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I must have played the hell out of Jumping Flash, the one level from Jumping Flash, over and over again. I absolutely love that. I'm kind of sad that they only made 2 of that series, and then that was it. I thought that was a great series.
Can I go on a tangent for just 1 second?
Oh, why the hell
Sure.
not? I like you.
That reminded me of like back in the 90s when they'd have those like 500 shareware games on a CD for Windows. And just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was at Walmart they had one that was 70,000 freeware games.
Oh my god!
And for starters, I was like, I didn't know they even made those anymore. And then secondly, it's like 70,000.
How many of those are viruses?
Into that. Probably
How many
most
of those
them,
are viruses and spyware?
That just reminded me because of all the demo freeware, shareware stuff from the 90s, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's like half of them are
come
viruses and the other half are are different versions of Mahjong.
It is amazing what modern technology can do, man. All right. Oh, crap. So, the first thing I want to discuss is how both of the Sonic Adventures hold up.
Not well.
No.
Now, I think there's two ways we need to approach this. How the individual parks hold up, and how the games as a whole hold up. Because I think, in my opinion, those two have different answers to them.
Well,
so, GX Monkey, go first. You like to talk.
I do. I think, like, the biggest problem with those games right now is just that the engines do feel as old as they do. It's kind of like I described it kind of the prototype of Sony's mascot style games, and in terms of how they feel and how they control, it kind of does feel like it. Sonic is very slippery. He does not have any gradients of movement. He's just either go or stop. And it makes him just a little bit unwieldy whenever you add in the fact that the camera is difficult to manage, and I'd say that the level design is still pretty good. It's a little bit sparse, but you can kind of forgive that due to the era. I think Sonic Adventure, the original, kind of does more interesting things with level design than Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2 is much more of a guided roller coaster experience, but I think Sonic Adventure has a lot more variety to it, and not just because of the characters, but even just the way that the stages are designed. The characters themselves just vary so much. It's just kind of, if you have to take that game as a whole or as the parts, like, the characters almost entirely have to be taken as parts. Because they honestly just decide whether you will or will not have a good experience with that part of the game.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I've been having fun with Sonic Adventure, the original Sonic Adventure, all month, but I had to play Big the Cat to capture some footage for a video George is working on over at Segabix. And I thought, I'll play this level for about 5 minutes, and then I'll be done with it.
5 minutes would be like an A rank.
Apparently, I completely forgot just how freaking frustrating Big the Cat is. That was one of the most frustrating gaming experiences I've had this year, as I tried to pick up this giant rock and throw it onto a goddamn piece of ice. And I just kept throwing it and missing, and then I finally got the goddamn rock through the goddamn piece of ice. And then now, you know what I can't do? I can't get my fishing rod into the hole to fish for that goddamn frog who will not take the goddamn bait even when I manage to get that goddamn fishing rod into that goddamn hole.
I think you may have some deep-seated issues.
I struggled with it for 15 minutes. I couldn't catch a single goddamn fish, and I just said, fuck it. Fuck it.
I mean, do we kind of want to split this discussion up by character then? I mean, it's kind of almost
honestly,
what you have
sure,
to do.
Why the hell not?
That said, this is why I actually prefer Sonic Adventure over Sonic Adventure 2, is that kind of frustrating crap, unless I want to see the full ending, that kind of frustrating crap is optional. And if I just want to play as Sonic, or if I just want to play as Tails or Amy, I could do that. Whereas Sonic Adventure 2, I'm forced to play as Rouge and Knuckles in really frustrating hunts. And
I'll give you that. That's a pretty valid point.
I'm forced to play as Eggman and Tails in a very mediocre shooting up mech things.
I liked Eggman and Tails.
No,
Come on.
I'm kind of siding with with that one. I think that gameplay is maybe it's fine. It's just a little bit slow.
It's okay, but I absolutely hated the Knuckles.
Now, this is kind of something that I want to discuss later. But since I want this to come organically, I will say that yes, Sonic Adventure 2 makes you play through the characters in a specific way. Mm-hmm. But none of those characters are nearly as frustrating to play as Big the Cat. And for me, being forced to play through some mediocre segments that really, I mean, you're going to play through this stuff in Sonic Adventure. You just are, because you want to get to the final boss battle. You want to beat the game. Sooner or later, you're going to have to play through Big. You're going to have to play through Knuckles. You're going to have to play through Amy. You know, you can't avoid this stuff. But at the very least, in Sonic Adventure 2, it doesn't make you suffer. It doesn't make you want to tear your fingernails out.
That game, game is still
and that's
a lot
what
more
Big
brisk.
the Cat does. I mean, I love Big the Cat as a character because he's so goddamn stupid and pointless and really has no place in this franchise. But his gameplay, I'm sorry, I have to be serious for a moment and say, that he pretty much single-handedly ruins that game in a modern context. For me, Sonic Adventure 2, as a whole game, it really doesn't hold up at all. It's like it's one of those kind of 3D games that you can see why it was fun back in the day, but today, too many of the parts just don't work. Now, I still love the Sonic stages in Sonic Adventure. I think they hold up decently. You know, I think they hold up about as well as a lot of platformers from as a lot of good solid platformers from the late 90s, like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, which those platformers, to be fair, were working on
I don't know.
hardware.
I would say any Sonic Adventure game, as much as they don't hold up, still hold up better than the first Crash Bandicoot game.
Well, I've never actually played the first Crash Bandicoot.
What?
I've played the
not 2. 2 is great.
I've played the later ones.
Well, you know what? It's been a long time since I played the first Crash, but I love the first Crash.
Well,
I hated the first Crash when I got it on PSN. It is.
I think.
Ugh.
Oh,
I think
you know what? That far away, that maybe it doesn't hold up after so many years. But when I originally played it back on the PS1, it was a great game.
I am willing to say, Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2
were great games
both
when we first played
are
them in the
still
Dreamcast.
better than the first Crash Bandicoot.
I think we're hitting on some interesting territory here by mentioning Crash Bandicoot. I think that a big part of why Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 aren't, holding up as well as some of the older games from that era are just that they had a lot of, experimental controls. It was kind of the first foray into 3D, and they didn't really know how to make everything fit quite right. And, I think that's a big part of, the shortcomings of both of those games. It's just they didn't have a baseline for comparison, and that's why Sonic Adventure 2 does hold up better, why it does have, solid controls by comparison.
Yeah.
Because they said, okay, well, here's what worked in the first one, here's what didn't work. Let's just stick with what did work and kind of go from there.
That's true. Like, how many big, sprawling 3D Saturn games were there? There wasn't really anything comparable, was there?
Yeah, well, there were a few things. Like, Croc. Croc was one I can think of off the top of my head. That one did have control issues. If you pushed back on the analog
you have to use a
thumbstick.
Saturn controller.
Yeah,
Control
pretty much
issues.
anything like in that
Hey,
Saturn
quiet!
era,
Saturn has awesome controllers.
If it had like a wide level that was supposed to be exploratory, the character usually moved very slow and very awkwardly, so you'd be able to actually get through the level, or else they had
But
tons of control
two
issues
3D
otherwise.
games that controlled very well on the Saturn were Burning Rangers and Panzer Dragoon Saga.
Yeah,
But those both came out in 1998.
but those weren't like platformers; they were different kinds of
well,
controls.
Burning Rangers was kind of a platformer.
You know what though?
I don't know a whole lot about, either of those two games, but who made them?
Sega.
Oh, Sega did make those?
Sonic,
Okay.
Sonic
Pretty much
Team made Burning Rangers to beat.
And Team Andromeda
okay.
makes Panzer Dragoon Saga. Pretty much two of Sega's best developers made those games.
But Burning Rangers is basically tank controls, isn't it?
Yeah,
No,
it's Resident Evil with firefighters, basically.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what is tank controls exactly? Because I've never actually played the old Resident Evils.
That's if you move your character forward by pressing up, no matter what the camera angle is. And
Are you sure?
To turn
I
right
hate
or left,
those.
you have to stop and then turn right or left and then move forward again.
Okay.
More or less,
Resident
it's
Evil
just-
would not
Well,
hold up in today's
I'll
market.
go
In fact,
back to
it's pretty
that.
much not anymore. But
But more or less, it was one of their first games of this scope. I don't think that they've had anything on that level before. And
The only other 3D game they had was Nights into Dreams, which
that's arguably 3D. Like,
no.
there isn't that
There
much
is
3D
actual
to it.
3D controls in that with the kids.
There is actual 3D, but you try to avoid that part of the 3D. That 3D, that
90%
part
of
of
it
the 3D
is
is
not
the
that kind of
punishment.
control in the
Yeah,
first
but
place.
I'm just saying that the kids were essentially an early experimentation in 3D control for Sonic Team.
And
Here's
you can-
another point
What
I'll
about
argue,
Sonic
actually.
Jam? The whole sub menu for Sonic Jam, I guess you could say, is a 3D.
Yeah, that came out a year later. That controlled well, as I recall.
Anyway, the other point I was going to argue is what other characters control like Sonic? Because you're naming, there's some valid 3D games for the Saturn.
There's Shadow, there's Knuckles,
Well,
there's
no,
Tails.
that's not exactly what I mean. I mean
I
in
know, I'm
other
screwing with you.
franchises. Like, yeah, they've made some good games that are in 3D, and they have, a semblance of an idea how they work, but Sonic moves so much differently than any other video game character that I can think of that it's really kind of hard to wrap your head around some of those things. And I think that's why, they came up with, here's the homing jump, because that's really the only way we can make sure that he hits a target at this point, because he moves so fast and so inaccurately that the homing jump kind of becomes necessary after a point.
Now,
Do we still
That broke
want
the
to discuss
conversation.
any of the specific characters? 'Cause,
I
that's
do.
kind of one of the big iconic things about that series. I mean, that is what defines the adventure games, is that they do have these differing characters, differing storylines.
I wouldn't really necessarily say that's what defines the adventure games. It's just the adventure
I
games.
really think it does help define that
Sonic the
series.
Hedgehog 2006 also did that, and let's see.
honestly-
And that was our favorite.
I will. You
Go
will
listen
not
to our riffing of it, everyone.
And Sonic Heroes
I'll
also
hold on.
kind of did that.
I think that a big part of just the way that Sonic Adventure 1 handled the characters, though, was different compared to really any of the other ones. Because, I don't know, it seemed like it was more, they split everything up, and, like, you really didn't get a whole picture of it. I mean, I know that they all kind of do that, but I don't know, maybe it's just the way it feels now compared to some of the later games. It seemed more, fragmented than what
Oh
came
yeah,
after
I
it.
mean, like Sonic Unleashed just has one straight narrative, and
Yeah, but I mean, even like Sonic 06 and Sonic Heroes, it was a little bit less fragmented then. I mean,
In Sonic Adventure, there are parts of it that they straight up changed the dialogue for the different characters. My
Yeah.
interpretation of that has been kind of you're kind of playing the game from that character's perspective, and there's not things don't necessarily match up perfectly in the same way. Almost like I don't want to say
like
an
a
unreliable narrator, but
Like if a character's telling the story from their point of view.
yeah. So like when Knuckles is fighting Sonic, he beats Sonic, and when,
no, it's not even just that. It's
I know.
Whenever you do play as the Big the Cat story, I think a lot of the characters' dialogue actually becomes a lot more simple and shorter.
Now I would actually like to start talking about the gameplay. And now I've not played Amy's gameplay in a long time, so I'm not going to discuss her. I mean, hopefully one of you guys can.
I am.
You know what? was actually okay with Amy.
Amy just has transition issues. There's no flow to her movement. She's just... it's kind of weird because she has tank controls in a way almost.
Yeah.
Because you really can't turn her and move her at the same time. She almost has to come to a dead stop in order for her to change directions.
Well, if I remember her correctly, she was essentially kind of had Sonic's controls, except she had a very low speed cap. So she controlled like him, but she moved a lot slower.
Yeah, I think I was okay with her because I always just played her straightforward. I would just have her like running away from the robot chasing her most of the time, and I didn't really stop for too much. I mean, anytime her combat was horrible. Anytime you had to do that, you had to physically stop and then hit the hammer button. Most of the time, I was running full speed. And while running full speed, you could hit the hammer button. She'll do this huge flip in the air, and I always enjoyed doing that. But outside of that, I just played it like a straightforward, get to the finish line as soon as I can kind of way. And for that, it was okay. But if you had to play where you're stopping to do other stuff, that's where I could see where everything pretty much falls apart.
Now, my character of choice in the first adventure has always been Tails.
Oh, yes, I was going to talk about Tails.
Is by far the most enjoyable character to play as in that game.
As much as I love shitting on Tails, he was actually pretty neat in Sonic Adventure. I mean, from his whole coming of age storyline and learning to kind of not rely on Sonic so much, to his gameplay, which I don't understand why the shooting gameplay from E102 made it into Sonic Adventure 2, but the racing gameplay didn't, because that was easily the closest the original Sonic Adventure really kind of got to having consistent fun between characters. Tails, like, he's a joy to play, and they use his abilities intelligently by essentially, having Tails use his abilities to get through stages more quickly than Sonic by flying through those rings and looking for shortcuts and all that good stuff.
And his flight feels really good. I would say it's probably one of the best feeling controls of the game.
Yeah, and the flying does feel really good.
To me, there was always a sense of disappointment that Tails was, a mech pilot in the second one. Although I love mech pilots, don't get me wrong.
And
I love Gundam, but
and unfortunately, he just has not been playable since then, which is such a shame because you don't really get many 3D. I don't really count Sonic Heroes with this
that's
stuff.
That's really hard to count there.
I mean, in Sonic Heroes, his controls really stiff and slow. In Sonic Adventure, he was fast. He was agile. He moved a lot like Sonic, except he felt, I don't know, a little lighter on his feet, I guess.
Except better, like in all the games.
And one little feature
is being able to play Tails solo.
One little feature I really enjoyed in regards to Tails, if I remember correctly, is that once he stops flying, he doesn't just drop out of the sky. He'll glide down so you can target and so that you can aim him.
And I will say he probably had the best last stage.
Yes, one of the best final bosses, aside from maybe Sonic's final boss, which is pretty cool.
One of the few unique final bosses.
Yeah, Big the Cat's final boss was pretty
Did you get to Big the Cat's final boss?
I did. I have beaten Big the Cat's storyline twice, but it just was not worth it for me this time.
I think you kind of can't discuss the Knuckles version separately. Like, I think you can pretty much talk
Knuckles
Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Knuckles
here's
together.
The thing, Will. With Sonic Adventure 1, it was actually alright. You could... the Emerald hunts basically were... the radar would beep and glow when you were near any emerald. Any emerald shard. It would beep and glow.
If you just happen to land near...
It allowed you to explore the levels more, explore the big worlds. They were pretty good.
The levels were more open, less structured, which actually worked to its benefit.
In Sonic Adventure 2,
I'm going to disagree there.
It drove me nuts because it would only beep for a specific emerald shard at any time. I could be standing next to an emerald shard and it would do nothing because it would only beep for this particular one you had to get first.
That never really bothered me.
It didn't actually bother me either.
drove me
I
nuts.
honestly preferred the Sonic Adventure 2 version, partially because Knuckles could actually do more things, and most importantly because I thought the levels in Sonic Adventure 2 were a lot more interesting. There were a lot more things to do in it, and they were actually designed for Knuckles. You kind of see this problem with the Sonic Adventure ones, where they actually reused a lot of the levels that
which
were designed
was
for
to its
Sonic.
detriment, really. Well,
Yeah.
I'll go into that.
That's pretty
when we
much
get to
all of Sonic
levels.
2006. Like there's a level in Sonic 2006 that's structured, just for Sonic. I think it's one of the forest levels, and you're playing as Rouge the Bat to go meet E1, 1, 2, 3 Omega.
Omega.
Yeah, Omega.
Just call him
call
Omega.
But
And you can literally just climb up to the very top of the tree, jump, glide, and finish the entire level in like 30 seconds to a minute, I think, because you could just avoid everything.
But in regards to Knuckles, in both games, they each had their own qualities. But I did like how Sonic Adventure's gameplay was kind of less structured and more open. But on that same note, the Sonic Adventure gameplay, for Knuckles, it feels a lot more rough. There's less to the levels. There are no special gimmicks or hidden areas or anything that you can access.
For me, it's kind of a situation where the fact that Sonic Adventure 2's ones were a bit more well designed, kind of, to me, like negated the problem with the Emerald Radar, because there were actually more iconic places where they would put it that you could actually find it. It just became a matter of kind of learning those places and figuring out the different parts of the level, and less about just solely following the radar.
And so, like, one of my favorite Knuckles levels, is this level in Sonic Adventure 2 called the Aquifer. I forgot what the full name was called, but it was the Aquifer. And it was this kind of really large, sprawling level it had sort of all these hidden areas that you could find and
Aquatic Mine?
Yeah, Aquatic Mine.
Yeah.
Come on, you got to remember that. Take
Take
a dive in Aquatic Mine. Once was a coal pit, but now it's
that
water.
just
Oh
showed
my
up
God.
in Sonic Universe.
I know. I can sing quite a bit of Pumpkin Hill.
I was going to say,
You would be
Pumpkin Hill
shocked.
was always a stage that I liked. And,
You
know,
know, I'm
now that
starting
I'm
to
thinking
realize-
back on it,
I'm starting to realize the one things I actually hated about those levels in Sonic Adventure 2 are mainly the Rouge levels more than Knuckles.
Rouge's levels were more frustrating, I will say that.
Yeah.
Rouge was more compact.
The
I think
the
Knuckles actually had more open areas. Rouge were less. I would say they were more. They were smaller, and you had fewer ways to get between each area.
What about that
For
outer
Rouge.
space level that was ridiculously large? That was hard.
I have
That was
really mixed
impossible.
feelings
Knuckles
on
had the
outer
big
space
outer
levels.
space level.
I hated that level so much.
Because,
I remember
on
finding
one
them
hand,
to
they could
be-
be really frustrating to get around. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, they did have some really cool ideas.
Mhm.
Albeit
I
the
remember
Sonic
the-
stages executed those ideas a bit better, like with the way they messed with gravity and stuff.
yeah. I was going to say, I remember them being really interesting, but also, rather frustrating.
It's kind of a situation where I would have loved in that game if they took the intricacy they had with the actual design itself, but then made levels around it and not just hide and seek missions. Like,
Yeah.
give me something more specific to do. Give me a direction. I like the big world that you just made. It's just that I don't like what you're asking me to do in it.
What would have been really cool is if they kind of, with Knuckles and Rouge, they sort of went with sort of a Mario Galaxy or Mario 3D World kind of approach, where they give you this big world, and then they give you kind of set places to go and set things to do, and you have to get through. You use your special abilities to get through all these obstacles. And with Knuckles, who can glide and climb and dig, that could be really cool and creative because he's not.
And it
just,
was. because they did that in the final multi-character stage of Sonic Adventure 2, and his part was actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
I always felt like Knuckles kind of got shafted because his skill set is really diverse.
Knuckles did get shafted. You are completely right there. Fucking Chao the Hedgehog.
Well, that, and I mean, I don't know, like, his skill set is so diverse, it would have been kind of interesting to see him do things that weren't just, hide-and-seek treasure hunt. I would like to, because in Sonic 1, 2, well, not 1, but 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, he can do the Sonic thing. He can run. He's better because he can climb. Why don't you give him a stage where he can
Hell, he can run through walls. He doesn't even have to spin dash.
That's true.
Just bash right through him.
At the very least, Sonic Advance that series was able to at least bring him back for a while.
Yeah. Make him relevant for a bit.
Yeah. Do we want to switch over to the gun gameplay?
Well, it's either that or Big the Cat.
I think we've talked enough about Big the Cat.
I talked about Big the Cat, but did you?
We don't care to, I think.
Big the Cat, what was the reasoning Yuji Naka gave that he wants a slow part of the gameplay in order for people to appreciate the environments? Was that the reasoning?
Something like that, yeah. He then later said that he was a mistake.
Big the Cat was nothing but a time sink. The worst kind of time sink.
To me, it's not even that part. It's just the fishing gameplay itself. There's nothing interesting about it. It doesn't feel like there is that much strategy to it. It just kind of feels... even in the context of this big game, it feels very shallow to non-deterministic almost.
I mean, this is why this is why I thought that I'd only be in the Big the Cat level for 5 minutes, because the last time I did Big the Cat, I got through it pretty quickly because I just went in there, I caught the frog, and that was that. But I just couldn't get anything to bite this time.
And the problem is, I think he's another situation where you could probably have him, but if you actually gave him levels instead of this side game play that is not very well developed, then that might actually be a thing, because...
Do you mean like Big the Cat who fishes but in a different way, or Big the Cat who's Big the Cat but plays like an actual platforming character?
I mean Big the Cat that either has good fishing mechanics, or Big the Cat who is this giant, huge creature that can beat the crap out of anything and is probably the one character that's stronger than Knuckles.
True.
Yeah, but he's mostly just docile. He doesn't really fight too much. Except in Sonic X, where he punches Eggman in the nose and breaks his nose. Yeah, it was in the comic book. It's actually a pretty funny moment because you did not expect that from Big.
I think that whenever you look at the actual mechanics of the Sonic Adventure 2 version, I think mechanically it's better, but I think Gamma is a much more interesting thing to control.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Which is really cool. I mean, you want him to be in that laying down wheel tread version, because that looked so cool whenever you could do that. I think that whenever they moved over to the new mech version in Sonic Adventure 2, I think what you lost in his agility, they did at least help make up for a little bit in level design, because the Sonic Adventure 2 one's level design and what the characters could actually do, their skill sets were much more improved. And I think the combo system in the Sonic Adventure 2 one I thought was a lot more interesting, because they gave you a lot more opportunities to try to set things up. I mean, there's the Eggman level on the aircraft carrier where it's like they're just throwing targets at you, and to get that A rank, you're locking on to like 20, 25 enemies at once and just letting everything explode around you.
My favorite part.
Well, it also had like level design.
Yeah, I actually did kind of...
Sonic Adventure had very disconnected level design. It was literally you got to a point in the stage, and then without any transition, it would shove you in another part of the stage. Any of the stages had, especially the Sonic stages, just had a ton of parts like that. More or less. I just wanted to say, like, the biggest downfall of the Sonic Adventure 2 version of the shooting gameplay was just the bosses, because there were no good bosses for that version. There just were not. And Gamma had pretty fun bosses. I think his were much more entertaining. It was very thematically appropriate. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the other ones, I mean, Tails fights Robotnik like twice, but you can't lock on to him, or you lock on and it doesn't actually do anything because he's trying to strafe, so you have to hit him. You have to kind of sweep with the weird pea shooter. There was one against the Egg Golem, Robotnik versus the Egg Golem. And I think Tails had one as well, but I can't remember what it was.
I'm pretty sure Eggman fought a gun boss, yeah. Not really much to add. I mean, they do that little Panzer Dragon homing shot stuff, and both of them feel about the same. Like GX was saying, mechanically, I think Sonic Adventure 2 does a little bit better job, but then you have the character of his name just escaped
Gamma.
Gamma, thank you. Anyway, and so when you're playing as a character with those kind of controls, it's a little, different. But yeah, pretty much any boss levels now were pretty disappointing, especially like when you're playing as Tails fighting Eggman. You just shoot him, he's like, oh no, oh no, oh no. That's just horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it kind of as you were saying it, and I mean, when I think back about playing through the Sonic levels, those were kind of like my favorite. I always really had a good time, cruising through the levels. They were well designed. There was challenge to them. You couldn't just hold forward and go. I think that the Sonic levels still hold up really well, especially compared to, modern Sonic levels. Obviously, there's been some progression. They've fine-tuned some things. But, I mean, Sonic, those levels kind of just hit the mark, I think, the best out of all the different play styles. And I think that really a lot of the modern stuff kind of still takes its cues from that.
For me, it's kind of a situation where those, at least in Sonic Adventure 2, those stages don't overstay their while as much as some of the others do.
That's a good point.
And Shadow was even worse. Shadow had...
I traded in Shadow the Hedgehog less than a month after I bought it. That's how much I hated that game.
I still own my original copy, and there was a good chunk of time where I enjoyed it, but there was also a good chunk of time where
I realized you shouldn't.
I don't know. It was another Sonic game, and I was trying to get back into Sonic and enjoying the fact that it was still around.
I actually enjoy Sonic 06 more than I do Shadow. That's how much I hated that game.
I was subjected to both at the same time. Not like, at the exact same time, but over the same 12-hour span. And I gotta say, Sonic 06 was not the better of the two, but they were both pretty bottom tier at that point.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, well, that bar is really, really low. So
the interesting thing about the Sonic stages, though, is that those are the ones where they put so much effort into making it the spectacle. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that double-edged sword of what we looked at for a long while, where they almost kind of play themselves, but at the same time, you're also doing interesting things. I mean, you're gonna get away from the giant orca, but it's just a matter of, it's still kind of cool that he's being chased by this giant orca.
Yeah, the set pieces are ridiculous. Yeah, the truck, chasing you through the city.
Like, that is the most iconic thing about that game. If you remember anything about Sonic Adventure 2, it is the truck.
Yeah. Oh, that was a really fun stage. I got to tell you, that was one of my favorites.
Classic Sonic, he just kept coming and coming no matter what.
Now, that said, I also think that the stages themselves are pretty inconsistent.
Are we,
Sonic Adventure did try to go for a lot more variety. Like, you had the casino level, which was like completely out there.
That stage made me so mad just because it was like, this is all Amy Rose's fault. I really just hate her.
Hey kids, watch Sonic take a shower for no reason.
I liked the stage, but I was just so angry at Amy Rose. I don't know why.
My issue is just that, like, it's just kind of the problem that persists with a lot of how that series was for a while. It's just that I like having the pinball. The pinball's cool. It's just that the pinball physics are terrible.
Yeah.
I remember in the Knights pinball stage, I kept getting, like, the bonus little sweep through the Knights land thing, and I didn't know if I was doing it really well or if I was not supposed to be doing that well or what. I don't know.
Well, the end game of that...
I mean, this is kind of nice, but is it going to be over soon?
Yeah, kind of.
The end game of that level, though, is pretty cool, though, because... first off, it was completely silly because you're just trying to get as many rings as you can so that you can create a Scrooge McDuck money bin of rings that are high enough so that you can reach the emerald. And whenever you go in to press the money to give it your rings, the giant mechanical hands basically just grab you and shake them out of you. It's like, yeah. But I think, on the other hand, though, you also had the pyramid stage, which it had some good moments to it, but it was a lot more bland than a lot of the other stages in Sonic Adventure 2. It was frustrating. I think I think the not the outdoor space station, but whenever Sonic was inside the Ark.
Oh, I hated that one.
That stage, that one was really surprisingly slow and methodic. I think I'm talking about Crazy Gadget. It has a lot of interesting pieces, but it's very slow and it's very methodical. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of weird ways to die with that.
Yeah. I remember, there was this one jump that I could not, for the life of me, do. And it took me, I don't know, a week or something of just trying to get over this one, slime pit, whatever they are. Acid slime, whatever. But I was really mad at the game for a while because I could not do that jump.
They had so much gravity play between that and the final Shadow level, and the engine combined with the camera system, combined with the controls, just could not manage the shift in perspective very well.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you can't press forward and have him go the way that it would look like he has to go. You kind of have to adjust the way you're pushing the control stick to account for whatever drift he has on this weird gravity surface. Mm-hmm. And then there's times in Shadow where I was just going, and then I guess Shadow left the gravity field and flew off into nowhere and died. And then who can forget the final Sonic stage of Sonic Adventure 2? There's a combination of that stage being really, really cool, but also so terrible. They expect you to have a really strong sense of nuance to his movement, but the engine itself just isn't designed to manage that. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about just how they look, because I mean, I think it's worth mentioning. Sonic Adventure 2 has some of the cooler motifs in Sonic stages in Sonic games.
One thing is, I think they made a horrible decision doing motion capture for the cutscenes in Sonic Adventure 2. It was like having Disney mascots going on adventure. It was just weird.
Let's be honest. let's be honest though, the animations in both those games are garbage.
Some of the freaky faces.
I was really
Sonic
hoping
makes
I
in
wasn't
Sonic
going to be the
Adventure
only
1.
one thinking that. Like, for as cutscenes go, I always thought they were just kind of so bizarrely animated as far as like the character models, and it's like no one else seemed to think that at the time, and I always thought that, and I was like, no one else noticed this. I don't know.
It's just kind of, for me, it may be, to me, the whole package and presentation is one of the things that just keeps it from holding up the most to me.
Yeah.
Just the thing is, like, if you actually look at the story beats, if you actually look at what's going on, I'm gonna say, you know what, Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 both have pretty cool stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the animation's so bad, and here's the thing about the voice acting. I think that the voice actors are kind of giving good performances. Like, I think Ryan Drummond is a good Sonic, but but it sounds like every single line in the whole thing was recorded in isolation. Like, their localization of that game is just bad. Between the writing of it, the way that they tried to merge the voice acting with the other, it feels really, really early, and in some ways I'm almost tempted to say, like, earlier than it really should be. And maybe I'm just kind of losing context, but I'm just kind of thinking, PS2 was right around the corner. Mm-hmm. I feel like there would be better ways to have done that, and I kind of wish that if they were going to do that and they weren't able to do it as good as they wanted it, that they could have just maybe not had Sonic talk, or at least done it through text, or something like that, and it would have really changed, I think, everything after that.
The weird thing about the whole thing,
I mean, when you
the weird thing about the whole thing is just that you go back and look at this now, it's like it does a lot of really interesting things. It took a lot of really, big chances for what it was. And at the time, they seemed really cool. But now, it's 2014 now. We're looking back 15 years ago, and they do not hold up.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's a shame, really, because they were, for their time, really interesting design choices that hadn't really been done very frequently before. And I think that it was kind of cool that it took a lot of these chances.
I think ultimately that's kind of the Sega curse, is that they are sort of forward looking, but the problem is they're forward looking just a bit farther than they can actually achieve well. Whereas Nintendo is very backwards looking, but they refine that element to an art.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, Microsoft is very good at actually pushing the technology forward rather than just letting it sit. And to some extent, Sony is in the same way, although Sony's interests more lie with, other industries that they're also part of.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, bringing up the voice acting earlier. Yeah, you're right. It feels very stiff and very spaced out, except in Sonic 2 when they're going, "Huh, you're not good enough to be my." Like, I'll make you eat those words.
I actually
if you look at something, and especially in like Sonic Heroes, where if you look something like in Sonic Boom, even during gameplay, their dialogue almost seems quite a fair amount more natural. You could actually hear the voice acting, whereas in the other ones, it just feels like they're reading off lines to each other separately in different booths.
And I think that kind of brings us back around to that first point where, when really, besides Sonic Adventure, have there been many instances of voice acting in games up until that point? Yeah. And I think, again, it sort of comes back to Sega trying to do something that had been done a few times, but hadn't really been refined at that point. And I mean, at the time, I think that I thought the voice acting was pretty cool. But again, looking back on it, it's very stilted, very dry, very scripted.
I tell you what, though, for as much as we're talking about what does not hold up well, I could still play the multiplayer Sonic Shadow Amy Metal Sonic
really
to
fun,
this
yeah.
day.
Yeah, that's actually the reason that I ended up buying Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, was because I was over at my friend's house the one day, and he was like, oh, let's try this out. And because he had a copy, and he wanted to try the multiplayer. And yeah, that's the reason I went out and bought a copy. And then I really enjoyed the single player as well, so...
And they designed it really well because, well, I won't say they designed it really well, but to me it's like, you know what, I like it when games give me an option to shuffle. Like, I like having the option to just say, you know what, I just want to play a game, like, right now. I'm fine with if you just deciding whatever random thing. I mean, I don't think it really does help the shooting stages, because those were just kind of as they were, but at the same time, they also included 2 giant freaking Chao mechs.
Ah, yes.
And I mean, and the treasure hunting was okay. It just gives you it's the treasure hunting. You don't there really is no interaction between players and that kind of thing so much.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really talk
I guess,
much about this. I didn't really get the chance to do multiplayer that much in Sonic Adventure 2.
Although it does bring up the question: did you guys ever get into Chao at all?
A lot more in 1 than 2. And what I don't understand is why they never brought them back, really, except for, like, little side character things, because people actually like that little, bit of extra gameplay.
I think the big problem, not problem, but I think the big reason why, A, they exist in the first place, and B, they never kind of took off, is because, you know, this game came out, Tamagotchis were still pretty big. It was, 1997, 98 when those came out, and virtual pets were just like a big thing. And I think maybe that's the reason why they were included in the game in the first place. Is they're like, let's just do the fun little virtual pet thing, have Sonic raise some little friends and stuff. And then when that craze died down, like it crashed. Like, no one has a virtual pet now. No one even cares. So I think that's the reason they never really came back.
The problem is, no, they can't bring them back. Like, it's just that it's a brand that exists now. If Sega were to design something like that again and make it its own standalone, I think the only way to avoid the baggage along with that is to just create something new. And I think something new would actually sell better than approaching Chao. I'm actually going to be the different one out of the group. Surprise, surprise. I didn't really get into Chao, and I got into them so much as I knew I had to do this in order to get emblems to unlock the final Green Hill Zone stage. But my issue was always that I know you're talking like there's so much depth to it, but the problem is all that depth is so far on the long-term scale that the immediate of what I could do with Chao there just isn't that much of it.
I mean, I get that. That's pretty much why I didn't pay the Chao much mind when I first played the games, because when you walked in there, there just didn't seem to be a whole lot to it. But because my nieces stuck with it, I got to see all the cool things you could do with them over the long term.
Yeah,
actually, I mean, to be honest with you, I really wasn't all that into. Like, it was kind of fun to play around with them, but because I had watched my neighbors play on the Dreamcast and they got to move them over to the VMU, it's like I kind of missed out on some of the things that they got to do with their Chaos, and I was like, this isn't as much fun, and I kind of gave up on it.
Huh.
It's just kind of a situation where it is neat that they give you something to do with all the rings, with all the small animals you collect, with all the drives that you collect. That part is cool, that they let you dump that into a Chao garden.
Yeah.
But to actually accomplish it, to get a Chao raised, it requires just this time investment that for not giving me much to do in the garden, but requiring me to spend a lot of time there to actually accomplish something, that just to me just kind of feels like the failure of the system.
Okay, guys, you guys keep talking. I'm absolutely starving. I'm gonna grab my dinner right now, and then I'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know. At this point, I think we've kind of talked the actual game design to death.
Yeah, I was kind of done.
Well, and pretty much what we were going to discuss next were the games overrated, but I'm not sure we're going to necessarily get a whole lot of new discussion out of that. But I guess I might as well ask it. What?
The problem is, like, overrated doesn't... It is rated exactly as much as it is rated. I mean, if people like it, people like it. The problem is that it's just a question of, does it hold up? And
I guess we never quite finished that, because I was going to ask you, we've discussed the individual parks, but do the kind of the worst of the individual parks keep the whole game from holding up well?
I'll take point on this one, because I think that it's kind of a weird situation where there's like a half really good pile of things, like really good pile of things on some of these cases, and then the other half kind of weighs it down. I don't think it holds up very well because of the things that weigh it down, but I think that there are some really good pieces in there, and to say that it's not a good game would be to do it a fairly big disservice, because we complained about a lot of things, but we also praised a lot of them too.
Yeah,
so you can't just say, "Oh, this game was terrible."
That's pretty much how I feel.
You can't say that about a lot of Sonic games, though. I mean, there's some great moments in 3D Sonic games, and then there's some pretty much horrible moments in there.
Yeah, there are some pretty horrible Sonic games.
And,
I mean,
but,
like
for a lot of
Sonic
Sonic games,
Sonic Unleashed. I mean, the daytime levels are incredible; they're awesome. But then you got the Werehog, and it drags on way too long.
I actually kind of liked a lot of the Werehog stages
Yeah,
that I played
didn't
through,
really
but there were
hate
some
the
that just dragged
Werehog,
on way.
Yeah. Some of them were
Yeah.
like 20, 30 minutes long and just pissed me the hell off.
It's like you blow through a daytime stage in like 4 minutes. You're spending 30 minutes on nighttime. I'm like, I don't care that much. Like, if they were balanced 50-50, I'd be super happy with this, but...
For me, the two adventure games kind of stand as, these are still pretty playable historical pieces.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to get a good sense of what the Sonic franchise was like at that point in history, and kind of where it's coming from the past until now, if you really want to get the sense of transition, I think that it's still a good choice in doing that. But if you're just recommending it on the grounds of it being a game, there are better choices on today's market.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Now, for me personally, I think that in the end, if I had to play Sonic Adventure from the beginning, and I had to play Big the Cat, I had to play Amy Rose, I had to play Knuckles, I would really hesitate. I would really hesitate to say that the original Sonic Adventure holds up. Simply because there's just so much shit in there that wasn't even that good back then, and now it's just
it's profoundly rough around the edges.
Yeah.
There's a
could
core
cherry
idea,
pick-
it's just not refined.
yeah.
If I could cherry pick which pieces of Sonic Adventure 1 I could play, I absolutely
I mean,
would.
if Sonic Adventure were just Sonic, Tails, E102, and I say this as a Knuckles fanboy, and I guess Knuckles, I would definitely
I'd
say
take Knuckles.
I would definitely say it's a good game. It still holds up, but with when you throw Big the Cat in there, which you have like 4 levels of Big the Cat, but you'll spend maybe a half hour in one of these levels, which like that like you could beat Sonic's story in about 2.5 hours. So like
They're the same length. You're just getting the same amount of gameplay.
That's kind of a good point.
Essentially, yeah. So Big the Cat's gameplay equals Sonic's gameplay.
Yeah, they're basically the same. You're getting the same amount.
But and then you have Amy Rose, which I don't remember her being awful. I just don't remember her being particularly good.
It's
I don't
it's
remember
not
her at all.
super memorable, no.
I was gonna say I don't even remember.
She had some neat stage ideas, like the Funhouse stage was really great.
Yeah,
Where
I forgot about
it.
that.
It had interesting ideas.
But it's just that she didn't. Her controls were very stilted. She was very slow, and they were trying to create this artificial sense of tension,
Which
that
really
it wasn't achieved.
Yeah.
Playing through the Sonic stages, I was always so mad at her because it was always her fault.
And when you combine the Big the Cat and these horrible to mediocre gameplay segments with the general bugginess of the game, it's just too much, you know. Now I still have a lot of fun with many parts of it, so my feelings probably always going to remain mixed in regards to whether or not it holds up. But
There's a good playlist in there. You just don't want the full album.
yeah, and thankfully, once you beat the game in like 3 or 4 hours, you can like spend the next 8 playing that playlist to your heart's content. But
in both games, I got the entire A rank for
God.
Sonic Adventure 2, so I did unlock the Green Hill Zone stage. And I got not only every single emblem in Sonic Adventure, but I also completed every single mission and unlocked every single Game Gear game.
Oh, God. What do you mean Game Gear game?
Oh, in the GameCube one, they have every single Sonic Game Gear game.
Are you talking about Mega Collection?
No. In Sonic Adventure DX.
DX, yeah, they got all the Game Gear games.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
Like they don't.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I remember
that's
that
actually
now.
the better one because, well, you have to unlock them, which kind of sucks, but they actually have literally all of them. They didn't cherry pick like Sonic Gems collection did or any of the other collections. You have literally every Sonic Game Gear game on that disc.
Awesome. That means you have some of the best Sonic games. Like
You
Sonic
got
Triple Trouble.
Tails Adventure. You also have Tails Sky Patrol.
Oh,
good luck
Tails
with that
Sky
one.
Patrol. But I guess I stopped paying attention for a second because I thought you were still talking about Sonic Adventure 2.
It kind of, sort of. Yeah.
But, yeah. Now, in regards to Sonic Adventure 2, I do think that the game holds up. Simply because everything about it is a lot tighter. You know, the glitches are far less numerous.
Well, let's stop and wait and define what you mean by hold up. Like hold up for who?
Hold up, guys.
I guess it still holds up for me. If someone were to, and if someone were to say, I'm looking for a cheap, fun 3D platform where I'd say, hey, check out Sonic Adventure 2. I would say that because it still holds up for me. So that's what I mean by hold up.
Okay, because at this day and age, I just kind of I look at it and I kind of think to myself, if you've played everything, then this is still a viable option. But if you haven't played,
I would not
all the
recommend
Mario
this
games, all the Spyro, Crash Bandicoot games, all the Ratchet and Clank games, all the Sly.
Don't say all the Spyro and Crash Bandicoot games.
all the Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper games.
Yeah,
I would still put those ones over Sonic Adventure 2.
I would not disagree that. At least I would not disagree with the Mario games. Aside from Mario Sunshine, because I don't like that game.
Well, said it time and time.
I don't like Mario Sunshine. I don't like Mario Sunshine, and I would still not disagree with that. I think every Mario game that I can think of is still better.
Well, Mario's Time Machine. Mario.
Okay,
I mean, like
don't
real
be
games,
insulting,
not educational games. Come on. Although I did love Mario's Missing. I played through that like 4 times.
But for me, Sonic Adventure 2 is still a fun game by modern standards. It's not better than Mario Galaxy or Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal, but it's still fun. And for me, that's enough to say that it holds up.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I still actually prefer Sonic Unleashed over Sonic Adventure 2.
I mean,
that's fine.
I think that's a situation where the problem is I can play more of Sonic Adventure 2 without getting frustrated, without being upset, and I can actually get through a game session of that game in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
Sonic Unleashed's problem is that the pacing is god-awful. And admittedly, I think parts of Sonic Unleashed are way better, like way, way, way better than Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
But there's so much of it. There's just so much you have to slog through. Like, getting the medals, I would rather play Big the Cat than have to hunt down medals to unlock the next stage.
Well, again,
I wouldn't go
That
that
I
far.
comes
kind
down-
of agree with, yeah.
Because
it just kind of comes down again to, is the whole, better than the whole of this one? You can't compare the sum of their parts in some cases.
Yeah, I think that Sonic Adventure 2 is still, as a whole product, more recommendable than Sonic Unleashed, unless you're willing to put up with some of the design problems with Sonic Unleashed. I
But
think
is it
Sonic
better
Unleashed
than
has a
Tails
better
Sky
core.
Patrol?
That is the tough question. Let's stack Tails Sky Patrol up against Sonic and the Black Knight.
See, this isn't the kind of stuff you guys get on The View. This is where we have the hard-hitting questions.
yeah, like Knuckles Knuckles' only game is far better than Tails' games. I hope you know.
Well, you're wrong, but okay.
You're funny, GX. You're hilarious. Jason, have you gone to get your food yet, or what?
Yeah, I think it's probably time to wrap it up unless you want to talk about Sonic Shuffle or anything.
Well, no,
That's a
we're
Dreamcast
actually
game.
we actually still have a few other discussion points I want to get to, though.
Well, we really only have one big one.
True,
Yeah.
but I have divided into a series of subtopics, which we will go through in an orderly fashion.
Because that's the
For
way
once.
conversations go.
Yes, that's exactly how conversations go. Now, I did ask this before. I'll ask it again because we did kind of. I did try to move over to this topic a bit too quickly, but pretty much I want to know the Sonic Adventure games. They were praised in the 2000s, in 1999 and 2001. By and large, critics really liked them.
A different era.
But then 2002, critics panned the shit out of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, which I will personally never quite understand. Because 9 months, and like the whole opinion of the industry of this game just completely changes. And then 2003, Sonic Adventure 2 DX comes out, gets panned, rightly so.
I can probably try to explain part of that. I think part of it is just because
And this is
the
where
way
I'm going
that-
to get my dinner. Sorry.
Yeah, go away.
let's be honest. The review process in most big gaming outlets sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's a bad process. It's a broken process.
I mean,
I think it's just a matter
Yeah,
of.
Knuckles.
hey,
I think it's a matter of people experiencing it for the first time. And I mean, Sonic Adventure 2 leaves a very, very good impression, a
Yeah.
good first impression. But I think the longer you stick with it and the more competition it has around it, it just you start to see the cracks pretty clearly whenever
what new
that thing is
competition?
released after Luigi's Mansion, after Smash Brothers, even after like that came after Mario Sunshine, right?
I don't think so.
what do you mean? What came after Mario
Wait,
Sunshine?
I don't know. Let me.
Sonic
let me
Adventure
Google
2.
Sonic
Battle.
Adventure 2 came out before Mario Sunshine. Mario
Yeah, I didn't
Sunshine
know
was
before.
Mario Sunshine was August 2002. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was February 2002.
I think ultimately, plus before that, how often did we actually have cross-generational remakes?
Not
Not
very often.
Not very often, and I think the problem is, like, compared to its contemporaries at the time, even though it was only a year apart, the problem is one of those was on the Dreamcast. And if you were still playing and reviewing the Dreamcast, you know what, you probably were still in Sega's camp. Whereas if you were onto the Nintendo thing, you know what, Nintendo still is the better game designer. So if you're stacking that up against what else was coming out, I mean, it is not as good as some of the other things that were coming out at the time. And I can also see, you know what, this game, the excitement that it bred was simply along the lines of, you know what, Sonic is now on this system. And it was also starting to be the time where we saw the big swing culturally against Sonic.
Yeah.
I think that's where the culture started to actually hit its critical mass, because they didn't have the console anymore. So all that was just the character.
So my question is, were the games... It sounds like your answer will be different from what I thought it might be, which is good. Were the games overrated for their time?
Well...
Did they receive too much critical praise?
That, I don't think... honestly, for their time... I mean, now we're getting into Player One podcast territory of the big argument. Was Sonic ever good?
Fuck you.
I was like, no,
Sorry.
I don't know.
I
honestly,
can simplify this, I think.
Honestly, I think for the time, for what they were trying to accomplish, yeah, they were great games.
Okay.
He simplified it. Never mind.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of taking them in the context. But the problem is, almost everything Sega did from the Genesis through the Dreamcast was just, it was really good and interesting at the time, because they were very reflective of the culture. They just did not have the long-term plans as designers.
That's a really good point, and I think that it sort of brings up maybe why only, like a year later, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was a lot less well-received. And I think it really just, the cultural shift after the death of the Dreamcast towards things that were on the PS2, on the Xbox, was just so dramatic that, even in that short amount of time, it just couldn't keep up with what was going on, basically.
It was just being outclassed by everything else. I mean, the PS2 defined that generation of gaming, and if you look at the 3D game design that came out at that time, it's just light years ahead of what Sonic Adventure 2 tried to do. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Sonic Adventure 2 tried a lot. Like, there was, if you look at it, there is so much potential to what that game is and tried to do. It's just that it was a matter of whether or not it could execute on it. And I think ultimately, when the remake came out, it showed that they really did not execute on it as much as they had hoped, or as much as we may have hoped it to.
I really wouldn't call it a remake. It was really more of a port.
Well, whatever you want to call it.
But regardless... Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree. I do think that at least some of the praise for both of those games was coming from sort of, it's the Dreamcast's big mascot, it's the AAA title, and so these games did kind of maybe get a little more praise than they probably should have, and their flaws were kind of glossed over a little more than they should have been. Like, Big the Cat does not really deserve to be in a game that gets a B+, even in 1999.
The weird kind of situation that arises from that is that you kind of wonder if anyone really even just bothered to care about Big the Cat. Because
I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back on it. It's like whenever I would watch my friends play, they would always be playing as Sonic, as Tails, I don't remember ever seeing any of my friends even, look at Big the Cat.
Well, that's what you do whenever you turn off the lights and you just say, okay, I want to see the ending of this game. My
When
friends
everyone
are
else
gone.
has gone to
I don't need to prove anything to them. I don't need to impress them. I'm just gonna get through it. I'm just gonna get through it, and then I'm gonna be able to show them, hey, check out Supersonic.
That's pretty much how it was for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do think that maybe they were a little overrated. But
I think it's more of a situation where I think its ultimate place in history is overrated.
yeah,
Like I think the people who still hold it so high right now, I think they're building a lot on nostalgia.
yeah. I mean,
because
there are people who prefer this game over Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors, which is just no.
I think that what arises from that is that... What is that?
It's my phone.
Oh. Hey, he's back.
Like the biggest problem is that these were the only Sonic games that actually took we'll say a serious story
Yeah.
up until 06 and Shadow, which tried a serious story and failed. And it's just, I think a lot of people, especially people in the, we'll call it anthropomorphic teenage demographic,
Be right back.
anthropomorphic loving teenage demographic.
That's a weird demographic, GX.
It really clicked with them at the time because it was trying to be as serious as it was with Sonic. And
I think that you're right on that point, and I'll add to that because it clicked with them, I don't know if it's that they haven't gone back to it recently or if they just kind of choose to ignore it, but they don't really pay any attention to the flaws at all. And, that does not a good review make when you do not pay attention to the flaws.
It doesn't. But at the same time, though, I mean, every game experience is never going to be gross. It's just going to be the net. What do you get out of it versus what do you get? What detracts from it? Like I can play some games that aren't especially engaging all the time, but it's usually because I get something else out of it. Psychonauts is not the best platformer, but I'm getting the world out of it. I'm getting the dialogue out of it. I'm getting those other things. The problem is, I just don't think that story is as... I think that the story's fine. It's just that I think the way that the story is told is bad, and to put that on a pedestal is just kind of naive.
So we're talking about Sonic Adventure storyline. Yeah, Sonic Adventure storyline was shit, for all intents and purposes. I mean, it had its moments.
Sonic Adventure storyline was pretty good.
Okay.
I liked the story in both of them.
All right, I was being a little douchebaggy because I thought that... What storyline are we talking about now?
I was just saying... That's
Sorry.
You were saying that the way the storyline...
I'm sorry.
He was saying that the way that the storyline is being presented wasn't the best way to do
That's what I was trying to say,
But in hindsight, I think that the people who hold this game on the biggest pedestal because of that, and because they enjoyed it when they were teenagers at the time, or have the taste of teenagers now, or...
Like me.
Sorry to insult teenagers, but I don't hold you in high regard.
Hey, when I see the teenagers, I'm always making fun of them, and they always agree that they are really stupid.
Yes,
but it's just...
You were. I wasn't. I'm in the middle of something.
It has ideas, but you kind of have to accept, they didn't get all those ideas right. And you can still enjoy it even if they didn't get all those ideas right, but it's still... Right. If you're gonna be able to talk about games in any sense, I think it's worth being able to acknowledge flaws.
Yeah, it's important to be critical. It's just like, if you're working a job, if you cannot take, the critical side of feedback, then you're not going to be a very good employee. You have to be able to look at things objectively and say, okay, it did this pile of stuff really well. It did this pile of stuff really badly. It deserves to be called a pile of stuff at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, I think you and I are in agreement on that.
Now, I'm going to scoot
All
things
right.
along before... Oh, darn, he just got back.
You just have to have your own podcast.
I
Come
was
on.
just going to scoot along until... Do we really need another?
Sure. Okay. What were you plotting behind my back?
I
You
just
were
wanted
plotting
to
to
get
take
my
control.
points out before you had any chance to respond.
The spin dash will rise again.
Okay. Well, now you have to summarize your points really, really, really quickly so that the readers.
No, because the audience already
I know
heard it,
they
and I
already
don't...
heard it, but god damn it, if you're
Well, you'll get to hear it
if
whenever
you
you
were-
listen to the
if you
audio.
were saying something I disagree with, I want to be able to rebuke it.
No, I'm going to say something that you disagree with now.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
thing. The problem with asking if we need another, or if we need
Wait.
Sonic Adventure
Wait,
3...
did we discuss main topic number 3 with while I was on the phone?
Okay.
Well, that's...
We've been talking about that the whole freaking time.
Yeah, we didn't really follow the show notes all that well. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I know, but I
Besides,
did
we're
want
at
to
the
touch
2
on... I did
We're
want
at
to
the
compare...
2-hour mark. I think it is better for the audience if we start wrapping things up. And I'm going to
the
say
audience. Who cares about them?
And I'm going to say this about the idea of Sonic Adventure 3. And it's going to not... You're not going to agree with it, Nux. Shigs, you might. Riff, you might. People online, no, you're not going to like this at all.
Well, then I already know what you're going to say, because I already agree.
The problem is, we've had 3 Sonic Adventure 3s. Sonic Heroes is Sonic Adventure, basically. Sonic 06 is Sonic Adventure. Shadow the Hedgehog, you know what? Shadow the Hedgehog is kind of Sonic Adventure.
I don't know if I go that far, but...
Yeah, it is effectively Sonic Adventure 3, except it sucks.
But because if you take a look at what the core elements of Sonic Adventure are, it is the storyline, of course, the storyline that's driving the gameplay. It is being able to play as these teams of characters or individual characters that control in different ways. It is kind of like the crisscrossing storyline. Look at Sonic Heroes. Sonic Heroes has the crisscrossing storyline. It has the team of characters. The characters play different, but you get control of the whole group. And then the characters pass through similar areas and interact with each other as the story goes. So I would say, you know what, it's not exactly a Sonic Adventure game, but I think that it has enough of the same elements that it is very similar. Shadow the Hedgehog, you know what? Shadow the Hedgehog still kind of did some interesting ideas with the structure, even though the game itself is like the problems with Heroes magnified. And the tone of it, the way it tells a story, I would still say it, and the fact that it's like a free-roaming 3D game, I would say it still falls in line with what the Adventure series was trying to do. And I mean, you cannot argue that Sonic 06 is not an adventure game, even though you're about to try Knuckles.
I was going to say...
Didn't I just say that Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 was effectively Sonic Adventure 3?
You did concede that.
Yeah, but you were going to go against that earlier.
No, I was
conversation,
not.
I do believe.
You have.
I mean, let's
You
be
have no
fair
idea
here.
what I was going to say. Unfortunately,
I
it's
think
actually
we
a
can
little
all agree.
disappointing.
I think we can all agree that why the crap would we even bother at this point? It's been,
Pretty
14
much
years.
the only value that the Sonic Adventure brand name has anymore is nostalgia, and Sonic Adventure 3 is, for all intents and purposes, unnecessary. Sequels in general in the Sonic franchise are unnecessary beyond nostalgia.
Here's the
I'm
thing.
not-
If they tried to do a Sonic Adventure 3, it would be exactly like what happened with Sonic Adventure 4. I mean, with Sonic 4, episodes 1 and 2. It cannot live up to the expectations that would be demanded of it in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
I actually really liked Sonic 4.
I liked it
Sonic
too,
4
but the fan
no one will agree
explosion,
with
the
me.
fan anger towards that
I
was just
like Sonic
ridiculous.
4 too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the problem is everybody's trying
Yeah,
to make
literally, you liked Sonic 4 Episode 2.
I mean, both of them. I mean, the problem is it doesn't live up to, of course, its sequel's name, but as a regular 2D Sonic game, it's just fine. It's perfectly fine. Perfectly works well.
Hell, in 2010, 2012, it was one of the better Sonic games to come out in like the last decade or so.
The biggest
when we reported on that, we were saying
but
pretty good things about it.
Just pissed all over it because it wasn't, it's the way Sonic Adventure 3 and Knuckles was.
Yeah.
The biggest problem that we're really facing right now with the series and with the very idea of a Sonic Adventure 3 is that a Sonic Adventure game has scope to it. And if you just look at Sonic 06 as the case study, they really were trying to make something
by making
really
these
big
massive empty environments.
Well, they wanted to, but the problem is they didn't have the money to do it. They didn't have the time to do it. They just had they had ambition without resources.
And I mean, if you look at Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, I'm sorry to cut off your point here.
No, go ahead.
If you look at them and sort of the pieces of it that are incomplete in that same way, back when Sega was still fairly viable as a company, they put out their own console still. I mean, nowadays, when they're just their own company trying to do what they can to keep going, I don't think they could devote the resources to making something like a Sonic Adventure 3.
Yeah, I just look at the games that they are releasing now. Look at the level of polish that they need to give to at least to the graphic design. We'll say.
I think you can argue,
but at the same time, I'm just gonna say, but at the same time, a lot of the level design pieces that they do, they actually do reuse some pieces. Like, they do a lot more recycling than they used to. Oh, no, that's not even true, I think. There was a lot of recycling in the Sonic Adventure games.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
even through
Tales
Heroes and stuff.
We're all recycled.
My issue, I guess ultimately the problem is they've hit on some formulas that they've actually done well with some consistency. Whereas whenever they tried the Sonic Adventure formula, they had basically 3 failures in a row. Like 3 really... Okay, I like Sonic Heroes, it's still kind of a failure.
You can like something without it being good.
I think ultimately what we're looking at, though, is that I think Iizuka has a different design direction than Naka did.
Yeah.
Naka, at some point in his career, Naka decided Sonic needs to be real. So he tried to make him as real as possible. To put him in these realistic environments, to make everything big and sprawling and huge. And that he just didn't have the sense of scope. He didn't have... I don't want to say he lost the whimsy, but I think he did with the Sonic franchise.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I think let's see, Naka was a better 2D director of the Sonic franchise, but Iizuka's definitely was better with the 3D part of the Sonic franchise. I believe he saw
I don't know.
He saw that character as a cartoon character more than as,
Iizuka was the guy who headed development on Chao the Hedgehog.
That's true. Well, I think he's gotten quite a bit better over time.
Yeah, it takes practice.
So, I think, honestly, though, it's worth mentioning we might be looking at a spiritual Sonic Adventure 3. Like,
in Sonic Boom?
On the horizon. Like,
Sonic Boom?
Sonic Boom.
Story-wise...
Well, that does have adventure fields and multiple characers.
I thought we decided that Heroes was the spiritual Sonic 3.
It looks like it's going to be a
Sonic
really
06,
good story
man.
to it. I mean, there's...
No, you know what? This is Sonic Adventure 6.
It's like time travel and what have you to it.
Yeah. Oh, so it's the spiritual sequel to Sonic CD.
Yes, sure. I think there's elements of Sonic Adventure everywhere we look in the franchise. I think it's just a matter of it not being in the story anymore. The way that they necessarily design the meta.
Yeah.
Design the framework.
And
which is
I mean,
probably for the best.
when you get right down to it, yeah, I was gonna say it's probably better that they're learning these lessons kind of over time and applying them where necessary and ignoring them where not. Because
hey, on the last 5 or so years of Sonic has been the best that they've been since the Genesis,
20
as I would
years,
say.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that point. And again, I think that's why we really don't need a Sonic Adventure 3.
It kind of went away from that adventure formula completely.
Yeah. For one thing, yeah. I forget which one of you said it at this point, but for one thing, definitely would not live up to the hype.
Yeah.
People would destroy it. And for no good reason, too. Let's be fair.
Here's an idea. I got an idea for you guys.
Okay.
Let's have this let's have this big reveal, and what we're going to do is we're just going to have all these silhouettes, and then like every day we're going to take off one silhouette, and every silhouette we take off will be a character that's in the game.
Nintendo, I'm still waiting for my Pikachu and a sombrero game. If you don't deliver, I'm going to be really angry.
Maybe that's one of the alternate outfits in Smash Brothers.
Oh man,
So
that would be
now
great.
there is more to to this discussion than just what should there be a Sonic Adventure 3. And surprisingly, I'm pretty sure I'm a little surprised that none of us wants a Sonic Adventure 3. I thought maybe Jason would not mind it. But there is more to Sonic Adventure than Sonic Adventure 3. There's also the legacy of this series, and pretty much how it should and how maybe Sonic Adventure should be acknowledged or utilized going forward.
Jason, can I speak on your behalf for a second?
No,
because I feel like the way you were interrupting, what you probably want to say is, in theory, you would love another Sonic Adventure game, but you also acknowledge the realities.
Well, partially that, and partially, look, we got Sonic Colors, which was just a world map in each area with the levels you could select. Generations, the exact same thing. Lost World, pretty much the exact same thing. And they are all, Lost World can be controversial, but they were all quality games, and they were the best games since Adventure. So,
and I think honestly that's the key word there. They were games.
Yeah.
I'm not actually trying to be funny there. I'm serious. Like,
they weren't interactive adventures like we get from more modern games.
Yeah.
It was funny because it was true. Okay.
Okay.
But personally, like if they were to announce Sonic Adventure 3, I do admit I would be excited. Simply because, the name Sonic Adventure 3, but at the same time I would be dreading everything that comes with that.
I was going to say, I wouldn't. I would be terrified.
Well, by and large, these days, I kind of just ignore the fanboys, I don't really go to the message board, so I don't really put up with that crap anymore.
Yeah.
A game is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. And if a Sonic Adventure 3 were to reintroduce the adventure fields, if it were to be more of an adventure type game, if it were to kind of be more intelligently designed, both in terms of the Sonic levels and any non-Sonic levels. So, for instance, no treasure hunting or clunky shooting or buggy Sonic level moments. Then I'd be very happy. I'd be happy to have the Chao Gardens back. But at the same time, it's just not something that the Sonic franchise needs anymore. Mm-hmm. Now, what I would personally like to see, I'm pretty sure most of you would disagree with me on this, either because it's unnecessary or something else. I would love to see a total remake of the original Sonic Adventure. This is something that I've been wanting to see for so long, because with Sonic Adventure, I feel like there's a really good game under here if they'd only fix all of these design issues. Now,
My problem with that is that Generations exists.
But Generations, it doesn't play like... It doesn't... It's not a slow... It's not a sort of one of the slower, more platformer-focused Sonic games. You know, and that's kind of something that I've been missing for a long time, and Lost World kind of scratched that itch, but its level design can be so convoluted that it's not something I really like to come back to anymore.
To me, what Sonic Generations did was that it understood what made those specific levels special, and it took an existing gameplay style and just adapted those special elements to this game, to this far more playable gameplay style. And I can say that if I were to play both right now, I would much rather go back to the Generations versions of them, because I think that the liberties they took made it better. Just made it more entertaining, just made the experience more enjoyable. And I think part of that is just because I think Sonic is better in 2D. I do think that.
Well,
I don't think you're going to find too many people
I don't think anyone would I don't think anyone over the age of 12 would disagree with that.
I mean, but even further, I don't think a 3D Sonic exists that beats a 2D Sonic. I think that's just the nature of how he controls and how he plays.
I from what I've played, I certainly prefer Sonic Adventure over Sonic Boom for the 3DS.
No, I'm not saying everyone beats everyone, but I'm saying conceptually.
Yeah. I think more you're saying which 3D Sonic would be better than Sonic 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think that the other point that kind of gets raised here with the with this discussion at hand is that when you try to release a game that's, you know, so reliant on the franchise branding of, let's say, Sonic Adventure, then people are going to go back and play Sonic Adventure, and I kind of wonder if they wouldn't say, hey, this game's actually not that good. And it'd be kind of a weird situation there.
Well, maybe maybe that would mean that the changes that a hypothetical Sonic Adventure remake they would see as necessary, instead of, you're ruining the purity of this game. How can you remove those the cat levels? How can you make Amy Rose's stages more playable?
I would just be happy with the Sonic Unleashed remake, where they cut the werehog levels in half, and then the ones they do have, they cut the time in half that it takes to finish them.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to just get a graphical remake that fixes all the glitches and collision detection issues and frame rate issues, and removes the more unsavory aspects of the actual game.
I think in order to do that, though, you would have to completely break that game down and rebuild what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they work with the original game code. I'm saying that they do make it from the ground up.
But I'm saying, like, you would have to redesign levels. Like, you would have to do straight up reimagining some of the game design, because bits and pieces of that, just some of the design choices in that game just don't work in a modern situation. But
it just wouldn't work anymore.
Yeah. I would, don't get me wrong, if they want to say, hey, we're making a brand new Sonic game that retells the story of these ones and uses the same motifs, but it's going to be all new levels, it's going to be based on one of the more modern game design engines and gameplay styles, I'd be all over that.
Kind of like the new Battlestar Galactica.
But I don't want another HD remake of these games. Like, I don't know what that would accomplish.
And on that same vein, Gamma is now a blonde woman.
Absolutely.
And keep in mind, these games have not been remade before. I'm not advocating that they like, I don't know, do what they did with Halo Anniversary and just add a new skin to
Well,
it.
you could say remade with Adventure DX to some extent.
I really don't think you can. I mean, that really is
Look
kind of
at
a straight-up
those
Dreamcast
character
port.
models.
That's not really a remake so much as just kind of new character models, because like the actual environments are pretty much exactly the same. You know, at best maybe they make some of the colors darker.
They added the whole mission mode.
Yeah, but again, that's not really a remake. It's just an enhanced port. It's still a game clearly based off of the original code.
I was gonna ask if Sonic 06 actually had like another year's time to be in development, to be in an oven, to be in the oven, so to speak. Do you still think it would be a horrible game, or do you think it would actually mesh out a lot better?
Well, for one, I think it would need more than just another year in the oven. And for two, if they did actually take more time with it and remove the parts of the game that didn't work and rework design that didn't work, then yeah, sure. It probably could have been fun.
It also could have just been disastrous in a different way. There's really no way you can tell.
True.
I mean, there are moments when I can still have some fun with it. Like, I kind of enjoy the Sonic train stage. Like, there's just something about the train stage that always just kind of felt right for me.
Well, don't get me wrong. It's actually very easy to have fun in that game. Like whenever I was Shadow and I drove the truck halfway up the loop-de-loop. Then once it got to the top, it fell down to the bottom.
Well, at least the physics were there.
Oh, my God.
On the truck.
Well,
Eventually.
the physics were there. They just took a while to apply.
If you went through a loop-de-loop at Sonic, you could literally walk around it without falling.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a little disappointed that we did gloss over that. They did kind of gloss over the comparing and contrasting of the Sonic Adventure games.
No, we did.
No, we freaking talked about them when we talked about the characters.
There was more that I wanted to say, specifically in regards to level design.
It's been like 2.5 hours, dude. Come on.
All right.
I think we've had a really good discussion.
If you guys are tired,
damn.
I mean, I know Jason needs his beauty sleep and everything. What with him being
I think what he's trying. I think what Nux is trying to do here is just he's going to basically take this audio and submit it as his college thesis.
Oh well, in that case, hi college board.
I do hate to say that you guys are kind of doing a lot of the work for me, and I appreciate that. Can I at least just say that? Well,
No.
Hey, who's the host here?
I don't know. Reef?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you're hosting? Oh my God.
Apparently.
Wow, dude. I've been doing your work for you. GX has been doing your work for you. Why have you been so gosh darn lazy?
Because it's like I'm treating you like interns. That's how it works, right?
Yes.
And now, it's not us who's preventing Knuckles from getting to his point. It is himself.
Yeah. I don't know. In the end, like, I've been playing both of the Sonic Adventure games, obviously, and I feel like I can definitively say that even though that both games kind of do different things better, Sonic Adventure 2 is overall the better game.
Oh yeah,
it's the more playable game.
It's not just more playable. I do think the level design overall is better. The main issue I have with Sonic Adventure 2's level design is that it is claustrophobic. It's very tight. As you said earlier, it's very tight, focused, and roller coastery. Whereas Sonic Adventure is a more open platformer. But because it's more open, the game has a lot of issues with frame rate, and the design feels a lot looser, and it's
kind of aimless.
Yeah, it's aimless. And when you put on top of that the fact that it's a lot simpler, it's a much more simplistic kind of game. Now, one thing that Sonic Adventure does do much better than Sonic Adventure 2 is the storyline. Mostly,
and the music.
Yes.
The stage music is much better in Sonic Adventure.
Yes.
Now, the character themes, let's just throw all of those out the window. But the stage music in Sonic Adventure.
GX?
I love Pumpkin Hill. I just don't love it for any of the right reasons.
I am the Eggman! am. It's what I
Won't
am.
let it get to me. I'm just going to creep down Pumpkin Hill.
Excuse me, sorry.
Know that it's there. I can sense
But
it in
yeah,
my feet.
Sonic Adventure, like I like how each character has their own story, their own character arc. This is like one of the only. This is like not the only. Sorry, no. But this is the first platformer that I played where there was actual character development. And when I was like 12 or 13, I thought that was so freaking cool that like Tails had a character arc. E102 had this like really a very E102 I think like did have a really good storyline, like just by the standards of what makes a good story.
Oh, he had the best.
E102 easily has the best plot of any game of any Sonic character in a Sonic game, and then of course we had Big the Cat, which is just incredibly innocuous, but overall it was just nice that we could see this story and this game through the eyes of each of these characters, and it's something that really no other platforming game has done that I can think of. Unless maybe, well, I guess Ratchet and Clank did kind of have Clank and Ratchet having their own storylines, but it was still.
I think that that's a tough thing to say. I'd say it's one of the first that absolutely did, but with the indie scene developing as it is and getting bigger as it is, I think that's not as strong of a claim that you can make anymore.
True, because there are so many out there. I'm sure there's millions of games I missed.
Yeah.
But that's really where Sonic Adventure is a lot better than Sonic Adventure 2. And Sonic Adventure 2, it can be really hammy. You know, like, I mean, both were hammy. But I feel like, I don't know, Sonic Adventure 2, the original Sonic Adventure was
authentic?
Yeah, that's the exact word I was thinking of, authentic.
Homespun.
I don't know. Do you feel that?
I think I was going to say honest, but authentic.
Making a character dark by having a little girl that he was fond of brutally murdered, machine gunned down in front of her eyes was overkill.
Yeah.
I think the Tikal storyline, as poorly as it was told, is still better backstory than the
and what's
Maria.
Nice is that it does subtly give you kind of more it does subtly flesh out Sonic's world as a whole. Whereas Sonic Adventure 2 kind of just felt sort of removed from the history of the world and the characters. Like we got to learn all about sort of the history of Angel Island and Knuckles and the Chaos Emeralds. All this.
You got Tails meeting Sonic.
Yeah,
for the first time.
You had that, and Sonic Adventure 2. It's pretty much all about Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
You know, Sonic's backstory doesn't figure into it. Eggman's backstory barely figures into it, despite the fact that his grandfather was one of the main antagonists.
That game is all about Shadow.
Yeah.
It literally is all about Shadow. So if you don't buy into who Shadow is and what he stands for, then it's not as charming. It's not as important.
And Sonic Adventure also had a certain amount of whimsy to it. It didn't take itself quite as seriously. Whereas Sonic Adventure 2, I think, was really trying to play itself off as a really dark and brooding game. Well, okay, no, that's not completely true. But it did do it a lot more often than Sonic Adventure did.
Shadow is just a dark and brooding person,
Yeah.
so...
I mean, like, Sonic, the Sonic and his friends were still generally cheery and happy, but, you know, Shadow the Hedgehog and... not so much. And,
oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sonic Adventure.
So, unless anyone is going to disagree with me and say that Sonic Adventure was better, Jason.
Sonic World Adventure.
Jason?
Sonic World Adventure. There you go.
Sonic Rush Adventure.
Jason,
no,
are
that's
you going to say anything?
I'm done. I just want this to hurry up and finish up because I'm all finished.
Okay, well, I guess that's it. I'm really happy that you guys took some time out of your busy schedules to come talk to me and Jason. Come talk to me and Jason. And hopefully this is the start of a more consistently released Sonic Talk show. Maybe we'll use this format more often and not focus so much on news.
Until you're the editor, you don't get to make that claim.
What claim? What?
Until you are a podcast editor, you don't get to make any claims over schedule.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, hopefully we can do it a little more often than once every 3 months.
Yeah, well, you're the one who wanted it once a month.
Side of that.
And then every time I was like,
yeah,
hey,
but
is it time for Sonic Talk? Can we do one? Or you're like, oh, I just don't have
I'm not blaming anybody here.
You can't even blame me, so don't even try.
I had
I'm
such
not
a
blaming
podcast
anybody
zone,
here.
So I ended up making the Sonic Boomcast now for Sonic Stadium.
I'm just saying, I'm hoping that we can do it more frequently now that, I'm feeling pretty happy about this show.
But speaking of more frequent Sonic podcasts...
Oh, yeah, push your thing.
I am about, I'm going to say, 50 to 75% through the design and getting ready for launch of NeverShutUp.com.
Oh, I cannot wait for this.
It is going to be your ultimate multimedia hub for various podcasts and shows and comics and junk. Horsepower will also be featured on there. The Spin Dash will be returning to there in a more abbreviated but hopefully more consistent form.
Horses and hedgehogs? You can't get more ultimate than that, man.
As well as some new shows in which I'm actually hoping to have some of the Sega Bits crew on.
One Piece! We're going to do a One Piece show? Yeah!
Somehow I'm being roped into that, but I guess why not?
I think you'll like it, Reef. I think, even though it's a really long freaking shonen, I think you'll like it.
I think it being broken down into digestible chunks.
I'm not usually a big fan of shonen, but One Piece kicks some serious ass. Yeah, it's better than Hunter x Hunter, George. And of course, I say that having never seen Hunter x Hunter.
How far are you into One Piece?
Me?
Yeah.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I'm caught up.
I'm at episode 336.
Oh, okay. I'm way behind.
I'm at wherever the English dub is up to, and
That's
I'm just
336.
Then I'm also at 336.
I used to be way ahead of GX because for years I watched fan subs because 4Kids was shit.
I actually just started watching that regularly last month. I got like Viz started doing the triple mangas, I guess, where they have mangas that are 3 volumes thick, but for like the price of 1 volume. I got the first volume, and then I noticed it was on Hulu Plus, and after I read the volume, I'm like, well, I could buy another issue, or I could just watch it on Hulu Plus. So that's what I've been doing, and I think I'm up to like episode 55, 58, around there.
Dude, you picked a perfect time to start watching, because it looks like Funimation's going to start releasing those DVDs regularly again.
But speaking of shows and series on Never Shut Up, Reef, I think you'll have something to plug on there.
Ah, yes. The quote site, which is actually a long-running project of mine where I just write down the stupid things that my friends say. And it actually has an associated book that I've put out on Amazon.com called The Quote Book, an honest portrayal of useless people.
And it is, as someone who is both in it and has read it and has reviewed it, it is very funny and well-priced.
Yeah.
For how funny it is.
And you can get it with Prime shipping.
All right, now, Jason, you do have a thing to push, so I want you to push it now.
What's the thing I have to push?
The Sonic Boomcast. Mention it.
Yeah, and that's on Sonic
Mention
Stadium.
it more.
It stars me and most of the gang from Sonic Revolution, or whoever I can muster up at a moment's notice. That's the one thing handy about that show, is I have a lot of friends where I could just say, hey, you want to do a podcast right now? And they're like, yeah, okay, we're going to go ahead and do that.
And two major distinctions between that show and this one.
I'm going to try to make Christian Gaussen the second chair, because he knows how to record the entire podcast without everybody having to go on to Audacity, and it still comes out pretty good.
And two major distinctions between that show and this one. firstly, I am not on that
Which
show.
is what makes it a better show.
At all. And secondly, Jason,
yeah,
you
secondly,
take it.
it's all about Sonic Boom, not regular Sonic. So that's why it's only a monthly podcast as well. I actually made the mistake of trying to drag out the last episode to like an hour, but really we were done with the discussion on the main topics within a half hour, and I think that's what the format's going to go from now on. It's just like a half-hour show. I think that fits in because we don't have a lot of info on, Sonic Boom. The cartoon's not out yet. The video games are not out yet. I will say, by the time we do the next episode, I'm already working on it. I will have at least one special guest. I'm not sure who that's going to be just yet. I'm going to be emailing Kelly about that.
I'll tell you, though, the closer that we're getting to that cartoon, the more and more excited I'm getting about it.
I actually completely forgot about it.
Bad news for Europe. I heard it got delayed till 2015 for the cartoon itself.
That's okay. I'm sure they'll just watch...
well, the cartoon itself is out in the U.S. this year, right?
Yeah, it's October,
It's supposed to be
next month?
Well, there's no scheduled release date yet, but people are suspecting October. It makes the most sense.
I thought that they confirmed October.
You have to really have awareness of what the Sonic Boom, the franchise, before you go and, make a... before you put out a video game.
Release a video game.
So that, kids who
Well, that apparently won't matter for Europe.
Not that familiar with Sonic or what exactly Sonic Boom is will know.
What is a Sonic?
What a Sonic Boom is.
A sonic is a sound wave that perpetrates through the air and is interpreted by your ears via electrical signals into your brain. Sound. Yes.
Reef, shut up. I don't care.
Okay, I was done anyway, so.
But let's see. Weird thing about it being delayed in Europe is that it's from France. So okay.
Yep.
Anyway, according to Wikipedia, the most reliable source on the internet, the series will be broadcast by Cartoon Network in North America in October 2014.
Well, then again, the toys...
And according to my Big the Cat figure, his pinky is sticking up.
According to some toy retailers, the toys are supposed to be out in August, and they haven't. I haven't seen anybody with them yet.
Now, I would like to just push something of my own really quickly.
Meanwhile, Star Wars...
I am writing Sonic. I am writing a bunch of Dreamcast-related articles on Segabix. Go read them, or else I will hate you for the rest of your life. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but let's be honest, you'll hate them anyway.
Yeah.
But they don't have to know that, GX. Shut up.
That's true. That's true. You're ruining it for everyone.
This is why I hate you, GX.
Sorry, just call me Mr. Red Pill.
I'll tell you, Mr. Red Pill. All right. All right. So, thank you, guys. This was an awesome podcast.
I think this is one of our best.
And thank you, GX, for reminding me to. This is definitely one of our best.
Red Pill.
I think that this
and I pray to God
format. Shut up, GX. Yeah, I have been. But I think this new format, Shut Up GX, has been our best so far. So hopefully you guys enjoy it.
The one where I say good, important, insightful things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, hey, I've been wanting to do, ever since the start, I've been wanting to do like a main topic outside of news and that, but we really never did that. We always
this is removing news entirely.
News, then comic talk, and then that would be it.
I always got kind of bored when it came to the game discussion.
I think the problem is once you get done with all that, there's not really any time, or you don't really want to do a main topic after that. You want to just wrap it up.
Yeah, and we should be wrapping up right now.
Yeah, really.
I'm trying to wrap up. Okay, so everyone's pushed everything that they want to push, right?
Yeah, let's turn it to the
Okay,
PlayStation
everybody,
Nation
go
podcast.
away. Get off my laptop. Thank you for listening, audience. Thank you for being here to talk. Guests.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. Except for all the parts where I don't appreciate it.
No, I had a lot of fun, actually. It's been a very long time since I've been on a podcast, and it was a good time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pleasure having you.
Why, thank you.
And I say you're welcome without any humility whatsoever. So, good seeing you guys. I'm going to stop recording now.
Goodbye.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Okay, peace.
Bye.
Awesome.